football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
This week on Red Zone Retirement Program, Coach, let's talk about better questions to maybe ask, why better questions might build a better retirement. And so I'm going to give you some standard stuff here and let you kind of reframe that a little bit as to maybe a better way for us to be thinking about it. How you doing? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. We're heading towards Thanksgiving. My birthday is around Thanksgiving. And so it's kind of a time of year where we, my wife and I kind of will go away for a few days and enjoy ourselves. It's kind of a pre-holiday holiday, nice. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So everything's going well. And we're hitting towards the year end as we're still trying to get all the Roth conversions, the last minute contributions and stuff. So we're pretty busy as well, but always fun to talk about this with questions. I always tell people, I can tell whether we're getting someplace, whether by the type of questions people ask. And I think people are just kind of preconditioned to ask questions a certain way. It's just kind of how they're thinking.
Yeah.
So what I always try and do is kind of get them to rephrase, kind of use what we watch on our courtroom shows. That's that's not the right way to question. We have a better way of questioning. So
there you go.
Objection sustained. We'll rephrase the question.
Overrule all that good stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, so it's turkey time. So happy Thanksgiving out there to everybody, whether you're catching this just before or just after Thanksgiving. Favorite dish, Coach, at Thanksgiving?
I'm definitely I'm traditional on all this. So I want turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, and stuffing. And my specialty, and that everybody knows me, is the mashed potatoes. There's just a right way to do it. To do the mashed potatoes, and it's not healthy, but it's very good.
Yeah, it sounds like my wife's a little bit too. They are fantastic. She makes me these once a year. She doesn't make them the rest of the time because they're not healthy, but they're really good. So
it's Thanksgiving. And people that eat healthy on Thanksgiving, shame on you. I don't know why.
Right. Enjoy it.
You got 364 other days of the year too.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, 363 if you do it on Christmas too. But all right, so let's get into these questions. Hey, I want to know, how can I get the best possible return on my money? That's a pretty big one. It really maybe even more like, how can I get the highest possible return, right? So what's a better way to think about this? Because I mean, that's normal.
The question is, the highest possible return on money. I always tell people there's always a better way to phrase this. We always have the Will Rogers line, which is, it's less about the return on my money and more about the return of my money. So what we want to make sure is that the money gets returned to you. So I tell people all the time that we can always get higher returns, but when we have higher returns, what goes with that is more volatility. They go hand in glove. It is exactly the same thing. So we can give you higher returns in retirement. We can do that, but you're gonna have more volatility. There is something that if you're in retirement, and you've heard this term, many of you out there, and there is something called sequence of returns risk. That's a real thing, which means when you start retiring, if the market plummets right when you start retiring, that's a problem, folks. So we want to make sure that we do not have a lot of volatility when we enter, especially early in our retirement years. We don't want to have a lot of volatility. So trust me on this, folks out there. It is possible, likely even, that you can have smaller returns, yet have a better possibility of never running out of money.
Yeah.
It's tough for people to wrap their heads around that. I always got to, as much as I can, as much as I can. That's not true, people. That's not. We want to be able to control our volatility. And that is super important. So if we're going to control that, it might mean instead of getting a 12% yield, you get an 8% or 9% yield, or even a 7% yield. We can navigate the waters a little bit better that way if we don't have as much volatility. And again, people just kind of think, oh, my cousin made more last year. I don't care what your cousin made. I don't care. So don't worry about it. Or my side account over here at Robinhood made more. I don't care. That is not what our point is. Our point is to make sure that you never run out of money in retirement. And to do that, sometimes we need to mitigate risk. Not sometimes. We always have to mitigate risk, which may mean actually smaller returns, not higher returns.
Yeah. Well, the top two, right, tend to be that how can I get the highest return and how can I pay the lowest fees possible, right? And look, I mean, anybody, you start to go through life and you get some age and wisdom on you. How many times, folks out there, come on, be honest with yourself, have you skimped out on paying something for something and it bit you in the rear end and it cost you twice as much, to go back and do it the other way? I've done it numerous times.
Yes.
Everybody has, right?
Uh-huh.
So the lowest fees is not necessarily the best way to go.
Yeah, it's something that, and going along your lines, everything's on YouTube these days. Even financial planning stuff is all on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube.
We're on YouTube, right? But
So I always tell people, if you want the cheapest fees you can pay is zero.
Yeah.
Everything that we talk about is out there on the internet. And I tell people actually that come in and they're, kind of a prospect that comes in, I always tell them straight out, you don't need me. You don't need me. Everything that we're going to talk about today is available out there on the internet, either in written form, YouTube form, or whatever. So the question isn't what the fees are. The question is, and we all know where we're headed with this, is value. What is it that we're getting for are we getting a bang for our buck? So if an advisor is charging you a certain, or not even the mutual fund companies that are charging you, are you getting enough out of that is beyond, or I like to say, a multiple of whatever you're paying? I know in my heart of hearts, I say this very strongly, I know I can pay my own way. So I can't say that I'm free. That's not correct technically, but I can pay my own way. So we're charging 1/2 or 1% or whatever it may be. We're going to provide value far beyond that in the future. It's not just on returns either. It could be on tax savings. It could be sometimes just peace of mind, like we're talking about with the first one. Make sure you never run out of money. So that means actually less returns. We're actually providing more value by working on less returns, not more returns. And that's again something that blows people's minds. So there's value that we're providing there. And so that's really up to you, the customer, the client, whether you feel that value is there. I'm not here to justify that. It's up to you to determine whether that is. And so if you feel that that's not justified, you're stupid for paying an advisor or paying that advisor. You should go someplace else or not use an advisor at all, because that's dumb if you're throwing away money for that. So value is what matters.
Okay, there you go.
Value is all that matters there, not what the cost is. We always say, we all know that idea. If cost was all that matters, everybody out there would be driving a Yugo. So that's certainly not what matters out there.
That's speaking of, oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that. So there's a classic car site that I go to every now and again looking at, because I've got my 72 Cougar sitting back there. And every now and again I go looking around for something else. Not that I'm going to do it, but I go look at it. And they had, not the Yugo, but they have a 72, somebody turned in a 72 Pinto to a classic car place for resale. You want to take a guess at what this thing is going, and it looks pretty original too. You want to take a guess at what they want for it?
30,000?
Like 18, which
18.
is still, which is awfully high.
We had a Pinto when I was growing up, way back in the early 70s. Yeah, and it exploded or something like that.
The gas tank was, but you get enough of an impact on the gas tank, and it goes boom. I mean, I don't think I'd give $4,000 for a Pinto. I don't think I'd even give $2,000 for a Pinto. But that just made me think of that when you said a Yugo.
In Southern California, they could sell it for 30. I'm sure people out here pay weird items.
I don't know. With all the restrictions, would they even let you have that car in California? I don't know. Yes. Anyway, if you don't know what a Pinto is,
there's your value. Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you don't know what a Pinto is, you're probably watching the wrong show, because you're probably not in the right demographic. Right. But anyway, let's go to the next one here, Coach. How can we better think about the Social Security question? Take it at 62. Should I take it at 62? I need to take it at 62. Oh, I better take it at 62. Right? So it's easy to get hung up on it for a myriad of reasons, but how do we need to think about this?
So people are always, and this is a typical question, actually. People out there, should I take it at 62? Should I take it at full retirement age at 67? Should I do it at 70? And so my question is, I don't know. And I'm not trying to be funny here, but it has to be part of your overall financial plan.
Yeah.
So we need to find out what you have, what the purpose is, what's the job of each thing that you have, and what's going to be the job of Social Security. So some of you need that right now for income. Well, that's your job, and you need to take it at 62. Some of you have other assets, or you have a pension, and we want to use it as longevity insurance. So we want to wait till we're age 70. And I always tell people we're choosing our age that we take our benefits, not based on your life expectancy, but the life expectancy of your spouse, especially if you're the higher earner. So that's something that we always want to be kind of considering, is that, okay, I guess the break-even point is 78 years old. Well, that's for you, but what if your spouse lives to 90? That would be something that you want to make sure you consider. So there's more to this than should I take it at age 62? Because all over the internet, they're telling you to take it at age 62 because You can either take that money and invest it, or you can use your investment. I get all that, people.
Or they're going to run out of money, or blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
So there's a lot of different ways to look, but the question is, how does this fit into our overall plan? Not 62 or 70, but why? And how does this fit in with everything else? So, and again, I'd say this comically with a little bit of levity. Okay, I don't know, but I will when we got to figure
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
And I think people get overburdened also sometimes with the Social Security number. It's important to come up with a good number and a good date, but if you're off by a year or two, and we understand that life goes on. So we want to pick the optimal date. I think it is 70 for most people, but we can figure that out if it's an earlier age. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you need it, you need it, right? That's one thing. And let the math help you decide that, but get the math numbers run first. And then you can take some of the stuff into account.
Have a reason for it.
I totally believe it's going to go bankrupt. So even though I don't need it, I want to turn it on. Okay, well, great. But at least you made a sound decision versus just I saw something on the news decision. Yeah.
The example I give to people, and this is my football coach in me, when my quarterback throws an interception and I ask him why, what he saw, what he was thinking, if he gives me an articulate answer, I'm like, okay, we're good. But if he gives me that blank stare, then that's not okay. Well, that's what happens sometimes. Like, what was your strategy for taking Social Security at 62? Or if you want to
take know.
And they go, they get a blank stare. That's not good. Now, if they have a reason and they can articulate it, even if it's not exactly what I would think, I'm okay with that actually usually. So if they have a reason, we'll work with that. So
okay. All right. Building a better retirement through better questions. How can I avoid risk? Is that a very good question? Probably not in today's world.
No. Yeah. So again, the better phrase would be, how can I take the right amount of risk for my goals and for my time horizon
and for my age? Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So there's some news I have to tell anybody who's watching or listening to this. There is nothing you're doing in life that is risk-free. Nothing. So if you're looking for certainty, you're never going to find it. So even though you think you're going all cash or whatever, you're trying to make things very simple, you have other risks, which would include inflationary risk and other stuff. So there is no risk-free environment that you're living in.
Correct.
So then we have to determine what's the right amount of risk. Now, like I told you, if you're in retirement, we have to take some risk because we need to outpace inflation. But we want to take a lot of risk because that's probably not the most prudent thing to do. So we have to determine what that right amount of risk is. And I'm going to use the term volatility. Sorry, people, but that's really what it is. What's the right amount of volatility that we can accept within our portfolio? What's that range that the markets will bounce, that our account could bounce up and down? Because it's going to go up and down. We want to figure out what that level is. So there's a right amount of risk. So how can I avoid risk? I wouldn't use that term. I'd say mitigate or control or have at least a plan as far as our risk is concerned.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, you mentioned cash just a second ago. So we'll finish with this question, right? So this, at the time we're taping this, John, earlier this month, end of October, market was crazy, stupid hot. And if you were thinking back in April, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And, and then it's like, so I don't want to be in the market. And then I want to go all to cash, or then you kind of regretted that. And then it was crazy hot in October and you were thinking, oh, I want to jump way more in. And then November started to trend down a little bit, it's going to do this stuff. So when is the best time to move in and out of the market or to go to cash or whatever? Is there one, or is it truly just plan and life specific?
So that's a great question. And this is actually something that again, we run across. I do see people I've had people that got out of cash all the way back and went to cash back in 2008 and 9 and still haven't gotten back in, believe it or not.
Wow.
That's wild. But that's where the fear is a great motivator for people.
Sure. Yeah.
So the better question is, how should my portfolio adapt to the markets and the market swings? So I always tell people why I use my the dynamic income strategy that I use, which is using guardrails. That's why I use that, because we actually have an ebb and flow to the markets, which happens, and so we have a pre-planned idea about what we're going to do as far as cash or not cash, or how we're going to work our portfolio. So the important thing is not whether we're in cash or out of cash. It's really how is our portfolio going to manage through the ebbs and flows of our retirement. So you've heard me talk about this many times on this podcast. We have a predetermined number. If you have X number of dollars, if it goes down to a predetermined number, we're going to actually adjust our distributions. And usually it's very slight.
Right.
Very, very slight adjustment. And that gives us a predetermined, pre-written a plan about what we do. So there's never any mystery. So if the markets go down to a certain level, we don't go, oh, we got to get all cash, fear and panic. I always tell people the market going down is not the problem. Panic is the problem. And that's you. And that's all on you. So going all cash or trying to wait it all out, that's not a strategy. That is panic. That is fear. That is not a portfolio strategy that's going to get you through retirement. So this is why we do a dynamic distribution strategy. And that is, and my customers have peace of mind. When the market goes down, they actually know, oh, it's gone down, but it hasn't gotten to the point where we need to make a change. That gives them a lot of peace of mind, which I think is extremely valuable. And that's kind of the better question, is not whether I should be in cash and wait out the market, but how is my portfolio set up and how do we adjust as we go on through the market ebbs and flows?
Yeah. And Coach, I want to make sure that we say, look, there's no bad questions. Okay. Like, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if you're asking questions to your financial professional, good. I mean, you need to ask some questions, right? But sometimes we get hung up on the real basics or things we see too often, instead of maybe retraining our brain or thinking about, you know, how do I need to ask this as it relates to me, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and so, you know, this is just kind of an exercise in how to kind of think a little bit differently.
Correct.
So instead of just being focused, you know, I'll kind of take it back to that main one that most people do. Instead of being focused on how can I get the most, you know, return from my market investment, I want to get 14%, or, you know, market's putting, you know, giving back 13 or 15%. I want that. And it's like, well, okay, but if 6 gets it done, or 7 gets your, you know, drives your plan, and you don't have to have all the extra risk that comes with trying to get the max of the market, isn't that a better question, or isn't that a better mindset? Is that fair?
Yeah. And like I said, I think people are pre-programmed to ask these kinds of questions. I think that's just a natural way to ask that they don't know.
Well, yeah.
And so they just ask them.
The market did 23% return last year, and my guy didn't get me 23%. I got to fire him, right? And it's like, well, no, were you asking for 100% risk? Because that's the only reason that you would have gotten the whole return.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And so this is why when people bring up an alternative portfolio, I honestly, I really don't care. I don't care what your cousin got. I don't care what your nephew, the crypto TikTok guy, is getting. I don't care about any of that. My goal is to make sure you never run out of money and you live your best retirement that you possibly can. That is it. The more you compare and look at other things, the more you lose sight of what you're trying to do. That's trying to win games. You're trying to get to your retirement. That's all we're trying to do. Have a great retirement and have a lot of peace of mind and never run out of money in retirement. And that's really what we're focused on.
Yeah. Trying to get to
the works of that.
Yes, trying to get to the 2-minute warning so you can take the victory formation.
Yes,
that's what you're after. All right, Coach. Thanks for hanging out, man. Breaking it down. Yeah. Always appreciate it, folks. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, of course, here on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up and notification bell. Click on one of the links below if you want to get some time on a Coach's calendar and have a conversation about your situation and ask whatever questions you need to ask about your retirement journey. Get yourself some time. Get rocking and rolling there. And if you want to pick up a couple of copies of John's books, we'll have that as well. So check out the video here in just a second and we'll roll from that. After that, have a great holiday and we'll see you in December for episode 100. So we'll see what we do on episode 100 coming up around the corner. Thanks, Coach. Catch you later.
Thank you. A lot of fun.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by rescuemyretirement.net. That's rescuemyretirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's rescuemyretirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.